Good afternoon. It is Sunday, August 9th, 2023. This is Jason Horak reporting on the ongoing adventures of the Dodge Daytona electric vehicle. Specifically, what we're going to be going over today is a status update of where the vehicle is here in early August, and how close are we to getting it back on the road. Okay, so the first thing we're going to start looking at here today is the clutch cable situation. This is the original clutch cable on the left. It's all mangled and destroyed. And the one on the right is a new or possibly lightly used one pulled out of some car. I'm not really sure, but anyway, we found that in the shed while we were looking around. In the meantime, I had ordered a brand new one, which is this one up here from Rock Auto, and have it installed in the car. So this is all ready to go. And you'll notice that it's a fair distance from here to the hole that it's supposed to go in the transmission, and that's because the transmission is actually lowered at the moment because it's not attached to the motor or the motor mounts. Anyway, so the clutch cable normally comes through this hole and then moves this clutch fork up and down, and that's how we're going to get it all hooked up. So I'm going to hold off actually hooking it up until we get the transmission raised back up and the motor attached, and then it should all line up perfectly and work like a champ, in theory. It was a really difficult installation because I'm extremely out of shape, we'll say, and fitting myself under the dashboard to get to the clutch cable on the other end was a nightmare. I ended up having to remove the driver's side seat, which of course the bolts were all rusted up and that became difficult. But got that all out of there and was able to kind of wedge myself under the dash and get that done. So at least that part is complete. While I had this project and I was working on things, I ended up painting this clutch fork arm and also lubricating it up with lots of lithium grease and stuff to try to make it move as easily as possible. And while we're on that topic, you can see that I have the new throwout bearing installed that came with that brand new clutch kit and pressure plate. And so it's all on there, and all that white stuff is the lithium grease. It's some special WD-40 brand lithium grease that's supposed to hold up really well and be good. So it moves very freely, and hopefully that will be fine. So at this point, we're ready to put the motor back in. You can see we have the motor right there. It's all painted and has the new clutch and pressure plate put on there and cleaned up as much as I possibly can. So we're going to go ahead and get that put back in here, hopefully today. I was mostly waiting on this video to get done before I could install it. Lastly, while I'm laying on the ground here underneath the car in a very awkward position, the new Solition 1, or the new to me Solition 1, has been installed. And again, it's very hard to get a good shot of this because of the angle of things, but I'm hoping the camera is doing it justice. And it is not hooked up to the motor cables yet, obviously, on this end, but all of the other wiring for the low voltage is hooked up and ready to go, as well as the battery leads coming from the main battery pack. And none of this is finalized. It's not zip tied in here or anything yet, because I just need to do a test and spin up the motor. I don't have this cable plugged in because I'm not sure how watertight this particular type of connector is on the Solition. So I'm going to hold off on having that plugged in while I'm driving the car in any kind of wet situation. But I did want to have it accessible so that I could plug it in for doing some, testing in the garage and, anytime when it's dry out. So anyway, it is mounted up there pretty nicely. It's very secure, and that's that newly shined up bracket that I had created with those big old bolts that are all now stainless steel. Like every bolt that I'm putting back in is stainless steel because I just don't want to deal with rust anymore. So anyway, that's where we're at the moment with this particular part of the project. So this is the abject hell that I have been living for the past week or so, is trying to get the motor to line up perfectly with the transmission so that it will go in and touch that input shaft. Now, I can't see where it's going in. I have to basically go by feel and try to wrangle this 150-pound motor plus flywheel, pressure plate, and clutch and try to get it to slide into the transmission with an absolute perfect precision. I have it well supported by this motorcycle jack that at least gets it close to where it needs to go. But on this side for the transmission, all I've got is this floor jack, which doesn't stay up real good and just keeps kind of continuously lowering ever so slightly, throwing off my measurements. So this makes it obscenely difficult to slide the motor, the very simple clutch disc, onto the transmission input shaft. It should be easy, but it's just not. Now I had this aligned so that it was perfectly lined up, going straight level, but as you can see, the transmission has drifted, possibly down even while I'm filming this little tiny video. So I can jack up the end of the transmission a little bit more, and I can try to get it a little more straight, and I can pump up the motor side and try to get that a little higher so that it lines up with the transmission. And it's just this like endless process of trying to balance it to make it level when I can't see anything. I can't get my hands up in there. It's really heavy and hard to work with. And it's just a freaking nightmare. I know that in garages and shops, they have special transmission jacks, and they also have lifts where the car can be up above their head so they can actually work on it without, crawling around on the floor and being unable to reach in anything. So, because I don't have any of that, this is absolute hell. And honestly, this is why where I had gotten to when I had that rusty bolt that it wouldn't come apart. It was kind of the reverse of this, where it was just so hard to work with that I just gave up, stopped working on my car for 4 years, and, avoided the whole problem. I'm back. I'm trying to make it go. I really want to get this car running for EvCon, but boy, I can't even tell you how frustrating this is. Anyway, I'm going to keep reaming on it and see if I can get that bad boy in there. Here goes everything. So after over a week of struggling with this stupid thing, I think I may have finally gotten the very end of the input shaft into the clutch. It's impossible to see. The lighting here is awful, but as you can see, it's in there a little bit, and it seems to be kind of holding. So I put in these bolts that are longer than they're normally supposed to be in these locations, but I'm going to use those to kind of torque this sucker in and have it slide in the rest of the way on the input shaft. At least that's the plan. Let's see if I can get a shot up here of this. This is like, again, there's no room to work down here. It's impossible to see. It's impossible to get a wrench on there. And the other one's way up in there. Anyway, this just sucks. For anyone making an electric vehicle, I highly recommend buy a garage first with a lift before you even think about it. Anyway, let's give this a shot and see what happens. Well, after another hour of struggling and straining and crawling under the car, It's finally in. At least all of the bolts are connected securely between the motor transmission adapter plate and the transmission. So, as you can see, I have the mounting bracket. This is what hooks to the front of the car. It actually goes up here into this, which is clearly it's out of position quite a lot at the moment, but that's what happened while I was reaming on it. But all the bolts are in, stainless steel all around, and we are connected. So, yeah, that was extremely painful. I hope to never have to do that again. And in the immortal words of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, this sucked beyond the telling of it. Anyway, let's go ahead and proceed with the rest of the motor installation and see how we make out. The rest should be really easy by comparison. Okay, so after a total of 4 hours of struggling and swearing enough to make a sailor blush, I have managed to get this transmission and motor remounted into my car. Yay! I still need to install the wiring for the high voltage system on the motor and the low voltage wiring that goes to the RPM sensor there on the end. But otherwise, it is all hooked up. All of the 6 bolts that hold the transmission adapter plate on are all in there and secure. This motor mount in the front is all secure and hooked up, you know, and with these 2 bolts on this side and 1 bolt on this side. The motor mount up there that holds this side of the motor is all secure. And the transmission has been hooked up to the clutch cable, which is the source of the original problem. That's all been dealt with. We'll see if I can get a shot here. I'm not sure how well the camera will make this out, but that is the other side of the transmission. And how it hooks on to the motor from this side. So, anyway, that was incredibly painful. I do not ever want to do this again. I think if my clutch goes or my motor goes, I'm just going to drive the car into a river. I think that would be better. I'm only half kidding. Okay, it's been several days since the previous video, but just wanted to show that the motor is all wired in. Got our positive and our negative hooked to the motor terminals, and then we've got them coming up here, and they're wired into the positive and the negative motor terminals on the Solition 1. And that's kind of the major thing. All of the small wiring is done as well. The 12 volt stuff. So we've got our throttle is wired in here. If we can get a good shot of this. But also the RPM sensor is hooked to that. The Ethernet cable is plugged in. And the positive 12 volt, positive negative that runs the controller, all that is hooked up. So over here we can see the RPM sensor right there. And that's it. That's all the wiring. It's super straightforward. So anyway, I've got the wheels on the car. We're ready to finally get them down off of these bricks and the jack stands in the back and see what happens. Fun, fun, fun. And for the first time in almost 4 years, the electric vehicle is out of the garage and actually touching all 4 wheels on the ground. What a novel concept. There's a bunch of wind today, so I'm sure the camera's picking that up and it sounds terrible. But, you know, nothing I can do about that. Anyway, it's nice to see the electric car finally somewhat moving again. Tested it with a new controller, just kind of drove down the end of the street, and it kind of lurched pretty bad. Not sure what's going on there, but I was using my data logger, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the data and see what I can figure out. Anyway, it's still just nice for it to actually move under its own power, even a little bit, again.